Motoring 2008 on TSN is brought to you by the new Q horsepower from Quaker State. Unleash all your horses. And Michelin, a better way forward.
This week we're in the beautiful province of Quebec. It's near the end of July, and Quebec, like a lot of provinces in this country, has had a very cool, damp, miserable summer, as someone described it to me. But hey, what happened to global warming? I mean, I thought it was supposed to be really hot and sunny and really dry. Maybe we need a little more global warming. I'm just kidding, but I digress. Let's talk about cars. You know, one of the things I hear most from people is the fact that so many vehicles today look alike, especially SUVs and CUVs. Well, back around 2003, a certain Japanese car company decided to redesign its entire fleet and introduce a brand new SUV, and they wanted to accomplish two things. One, they wanted to put the sport into utility, and they wanted to make sure this vehicle looked like no other in its segment. Well, that company was Nissan's Infiniti division. The vehicle was the FX, and what inspired the FX back then was a bionic cheetah. Well, the new second generation FX is still inspired by a cheetah, but this one is supernatural.
A cheetah actually can accelerate from 0 to 60 miles an hour in 3.5 seconds. When you think about that, that's incredible. Many supercars can't even accelerate that fast. Incredible speed, incredible agility, just a unique animal, and we wanted the FX to be the same. When we designed the new vehicle to launch this year, we wanted to take the cheetah concept even one step further. So we took it to the supernatural cheetah to give it a level of performance, a level of luxury, a level of utility that the previous vehicle just didn't have. In the new vehicle, we wanted to give it more power, but more fuel efficiency. We wanted to give it more technology. We wanted to make it more fun to drive. The people that drive this car, they want to show off their vehicle. They want to show people, hey, I've got something that's really unique. So this new vehicle expresses that in the design and the styling, and expresses that in the performance as well. .5-liter V6 or 5-liter V8. It's a brand new V8. 390 horsepower, but 12% better fuel efficiency. So we're dealing with those issues as well. We know that they're real, we know we have to do something with them, and we've done that as well with the new FX. Both the FX35 and the FX50 have better gas mileage than the previous vehicles. Partly that comes about by retuning the engine and a brand new V8, and also with a 7-speed automatic transmission.
You know, this Infiniti FX is a great looking vehicle, performance unbelievable, but it has the same problem a lot of vehicles in this segment have, and that is a lack of space, or at least if you're going to have more than 2 people. For instance, they tell you that you can put 5 sets of golf clubs in this FX, but to accomplish that, both back seats have got to go down, and you're going to have to pile up those golf clubs. The question is, where are you going to put the 3 other golfers? What would I do? I'd buy a Nissan Quest.
Every so many years, I think it's a good idea that they refresh the model. And for the new model, they've added a lot of technology into the package, as well as slight design cues and stuff like that. Of course, the more powerful 5-liter V8. So I think that was impressive because not only is it more powerful, but it's more fuel efficient as well.
I think it's great overall. Like the drive, the paddle shift is great. The power is phenomenal from the 5-liter V8. And one thing that I think gets overlooked is the braking of these. The brakes on these are just phenomenal.
You know, this new Infiniti FX has got lots of technology. I mean, it would take me all day to tell you all about it, but some of the stuff they have, if you cross the middle lane when you're not indicating, a chime will go off. They've got sensors that actually apply the brakes to keep you in that lane. They've got sensors in the front that hopefully help you avoid bumping into that guy in front of you, and so on and so on. But there is one piece of technology that I think is pretty cool, but then again, I've always been a bit of a ham. Can you see me now? How about now? Hello. Goodbye.
One feature that's standard on all vehicles is a rear view monitor. So if you want to back the vehicle up, if you're maneuvering in tight spaces, it's easy to see what's behind you. We've enhanced that in our Navi package with an around view monitor, which shows you a 360-degree view of the vehicle. So you can see what's behind you, what's beside you, what's in front of you. That makes slow speed maneuvering in parking lots or in driveways really convenient.
The FX35 has a 300 horsepower engine. I think more people may buy that version because they want the fuel efficiency. But the FX50, for those who want to show off, those senior executives, VPs, CEOs, presidents of companies, maybe they want to show off the more power, have the best of the best, those are the ones that go for that.
We wanted a vehicle that made a statement, had a presence on the road, would be clearly identified. We were not trying to satisfy everybody. We know there's people who perhaps don't like the look of the vehicle. And when you go out and push the envelope with a design, you've got to be successful. You've got to have a car that people react to and they go, yeah, that's just right. And that's the case with the FX. Anybody who owns an FX, anybody who drives an FX, they love it.
Whether it's for a lot of people or not, I don't think so, but especially the V8, like the FX35 is probably the one they sell more of. But as a flagship for probably a really good sport utility, it does the trick.
Do you want to save money and conserve resources? More later on Kenzie's Corner.
It may be a little foggy on the skid pad, but the clarity and purpose of this car shines through it all. On this edition of Test Drive, the all-new Dodge Challenger. When the Dodge Challenger concept car debuted, there was an unseemly Dodge crosshair nestled in the grille. Thankfully, those in charge dumped it, which now leaves the nose looking clean and tidy. As a result, the Challenger is one of the very few concept-to-production cars that actually looks better on road than it does on stage. For 2008, there are 500 Canadian-only SRT8 models, each of which comes with 2 500 badges and a certificate of authenticity. The inside of this Challenger has been very nicely finished. To begin with, these seats are superb. They're comfortable and they're properly bolstered. You'll also find white face dials and all the power toys you could possibly want. You'll also should take the MyGig option. Now this thing brings a navigation system and a 30 gigabyte hard drive. 10 gig is used for the nav system, the other 20 gig you can load up your own personal song collection. The beauty of it is the sound system is up to that sort of standard. 322 watts along with a 200 watt subwoofer. The thing is as loud as the car itself. The Dodge Challenger SRT8's attraction is not too difficult to understand. The lines are sublime and the mechanicals are to die for. Lift the hood and you'll find a monster 6.1 litre Hemi V8. This thing churns out 425 stallions and an equally impressive 420 pound-feet of torque. Tromp the loud pedal and the SRT takes off in a serious hurry. It runs to 100k in just 5.2 seconds and turns the 80 to 120 trick in 4.3 seconds, both of which are world-class times. It also produces the sort of sound that speaks to the awesome power at play. Do you remember when wheels were 14 inches in diameter? Well, the front brake rotors on this Challenger are actually 14.2 inches and they're squeezed by massive 4-piston Brembo calipers. This, however, only speaks to the wild side of the Challenger's enormous appeal. Drive it slowly, a prerequisite if you value your license, and the Challenger is not in the least, well, challenging. So many supercars are difficult to drive in an urban setting as the engine feels like it's constantly choking up and the transmission has a hard time finding the right cog. The Challenger's Hemi purrs along at 1400 RPM in the city, and the 5-speed manumatic transmission always manages to find the right gear. It's also eminently capable of dropping a cog or two whenever the need arises. You know, the one compromise in this Challenger is the back seat. There's very little legroom and not much headroom. In fact, it's tight enough it qualifies as cruel and unusual punishment even for your favourite mother-in-law. However, if you look at this area as storage space and somewhere to put your briefcase, it works. In terms of its handling ability, the Challenger has absolutely nothing in common with its ancestor. Where the original was a pure quarter-miler, the SRT8 hugs the road and hangs in there with a sort of tenacity that has to be experienced to be fully appreciated. The oversized 245/45 ZR20 tyres deliver a ton of grip, and the steering has the sort of feel and feedback normally reserved for a BMW. More remarkable is the fact that the Challenger delivers its ride-on-rails precision with an equal measure of comfort. Naturally, there is a good electronic stability control that can be turned off. Be warned though, pour on the coals a little too quickly at the apex of a corner, and the Hemi's grunt will have you facing oncoming traffic in a heartbeat. This new Dodge Challenger is an amazing piece of machinery. It's drop-dead gorgeous, and it has the mechanical wherewithal to back up its stunning style. But it has an intangible, the ability to make non-gearheads start to drool. This car is destined to become a treasured collectible. And you know what, in 30 years' time, it'll still be turning heads.
Michelin, a better way forward.
Today's vehicles are equipped with the latest in active and passive safety technology, but it can only work when combined with good tires. But when you're one of maybe 350 people on a passenger jet, have you ever thought about who's in charge of checking the tires? Well, we dropped into Pearson International Airport to find out more.
Interestingly, most people think that the landing is the most difficult time for the aircraft tire, when actually it's the takeoff. The aircraft is taxiing from the gate, fully loaded with fuel, very heavy, high deflection on the tire. The tire heats as it flexes as you approach the end of the runway, and of course as you take off at 160 miles an hour, the tire is heated up significantly as you're just about to leave the ground. During the landing phase, the tire's cool. It's been in the air, in the wheel well of the aircraft. You touch down, the fuel load is light. The tire, of course, is stationary, so you see a puff of smoke as the tire impacts the runway. That in itself is not hard on the carcass. It just rubs rubber off of the tread, but it does not impact the fatigue of the carcass.
Now, if you're concerned about an airline pushing the limit on tires, don't. The tires are leased, follow a strict maintenance schedule, and then are returned to the tire manufacturer.
Depending on the aircraft type, tires last a different number of landings, but as an example, tires on some of the aircraft may do 250 landings, and they land 5-6 times a day. So roughly every month to month and a half, they're changing tires. I can honestly say, whether it be Michelin or our competition, safety is paramount in aircraft tire design and manufacturing. We all, as a tire community, pay significant attention to safety and make sure that the tire performs safely and reliably.
Make sure you check out Motoring's brand new website. Miss an episode or segment on TSN? You can now watch it on the web. We also have a Car of the Year poll, photo gallery, the latest news, and much more. And it's all at motoringtv.com. One of the new additions of the FX are these side air vents, and they're not just for design, they're actually functional. They do a couple of things. Cool air coming into the front of the vehicle will flow through the engine area and out these side air vents, a cooling effect. It will also reduce the air pressure in the engine bay, and Infiniti tells me you'll get a 5% reduction in the front lift. So these air vents really act as a bit of a spoiler. How about that? All right, let's head to the Quaker State Garage and join Bill Gardiner.
Well, it's more like the hangar today, Brad. You know, I just couldn't miss coming out on your Better Way Forward shoot. I mean, I only live a few miles from Pearson Airport. As a matter of fact, I'm right underneath the approach to one of the runways. My neighbors hate the planes. I love them. I'm fascinated by them, so I just had to come out today. I mean, I run out and I look at every plane that comes over and see what airline it is and what model plane. It's it is, and just love them. Anyhow, think about some of the incredible numbers when you're talking about an aircraft. I mean, you know, this Boeing 777 that we're looking at inside the hangar, when it takes off, it can weigh as much as 750,000 pounds, and when it lands, after it's exhausted some of its fuel load, it can still weigh as much as 554,000 pounds, hitting the tarmac, hitting that runway at 150 knots. How do you bring that to a safe stop under any weather conditions? Well, you need some great tires, some great landing gear, incredible brakes, and all this componentry's got to work in harmony to bring that plane safely to a stop. Now, inside this tire, we've got 3 axles on the main landing gear in this 777. Inside of each one of these tires, 220 psi of nitrogen pressure inflating that tire. Each tire is thermally protected by a fuse, literally a fuse, that prevents this tire from getting too hot. So if the brakes were to overheat and put too much heat into this wheel tire assembly, they prevent it from going off in the landing gear like a bomb. They would deflate the tire with that thermal fuse. Now, when we move over to the brakes on this Boeing 777, I mean, it's just awesome to look at this. I mean, anything that I normally work on a car, light truck, is puny and chintzy looking in comparison to this. Now, what we're looking at right here is this multi-disc brake system that stops the plane. Each one of these components that you see me moving is essentially like the rotor in your car. Rotates with the wheel, and in between all of these ones here, here, and here are the friction material, or similar to the brake pad in your car. On the inboard side, we've got hydraulic actuators that squeeze this whole works together to stop the plane. Now, when the mechanics are putting this wheel assembly back on, they've got to line up all these components here, the one that I referred to as the rotor. They've got to line them all up so that the drive lug passes through all of them together, and each one of them floats, so they've got to line them up diametrically as they bring that wheel tire assembly in to reassemble it. Out here on the nose of the spindle, you can see a great big fine thread. There's one single nut that holds that whole wheel on there and preloads and positions the wheel bearing. Now, after they bring that wheel and tire assembly in, they use this huge socket on this huge torque wrench to put 500 foot-pounds of tension on that nut to seat it and locate it. Then they back it off to 0. Then they put 200 foot-pounds on it to give it its basic pre-torque or preload on that bearing. So you can see some similarities to a car or truck, but the scope of everything is so huge. One interesting thing I noticed on the inboard side of this brake assembly, there's a simple little rod there that shows them when the brakes are worn out. So when the tip of this rod gets back to here, they know that the rotors and pads have worn enough that they've got to replace that assembly. I want to thank the guys at Air Canada for letting us come out to the hangar today. Bob Reed in Cargo for showing us around the airport, and Steve Spear in Maintenance and his guys, his crew, for letting us see the hardware that goes into one of these planes. This Boeing 777 goes over my house a number of times every day, and I'll look at it just a little bit different after being out here today, and I'll tell you, I'll fly with confidence when you see the quality of everything involved and how seriously these guys take maintaining these planes. Gives you a lot of confidence in the airline industry, that's for sure. Till next week, I'm Bill Gardiner for Motoring 2008.
The main development was to convert this engine to work with both hydrogen and gasoline. So we had to develop a tank, a hydrogen tank, and then a hydrogen injection system, and then all the safety development for hydrogen-specific matters, so we can achieve the same safety standards as with any other BMW.
Closed captioning of Motoring 2008 is brought to you by the totally new Chevrolet Malibu, 2008 North American Car of the Year.
Isn't this a gorgeous car? You saw it earlier in the show. It's the Dodge Challenger. And you wonder, why would anybody want to put a front license plate on such a gorgeous piece as this? I mean, the lines are so cool. Why would you mess it up like that? So the PR guy for Chrysler actually attached the front plate to the passenger's sun visor with a couple of elastic bands. Worked fine. Well, not according to a member of Toronto's finest who pulled me over, and he said, "Surely you of all people, Mr. Kenzie, should know that the front plate has to be bolted to the front bumper." Well, actually, I didn't know that because I thought it just had to be on the front of the car somewhere. But he said, nope, and we've got zero tolerance because of all the hit-and-run crashes we've had recently. Well, I thought, hit-and-run crashes, it seems to me if the person is fleeing the scene, it would be the rear plate that would be more important. But hey, he had a gun, I didn't have a gun. I'm not going to argue with the guy. And he was nice enough to let me off with a warning. But I thought, gee, I better put that plate on the front. So I got the sun visor elastic bands off it, and I actually tied it to the front grille using also some dental floss. But then I stopped off at Canadian Tire and I had a much more sanitary operation involving bungee cords. It's held up pretty well. I have lost one of the cords, but it's on there pretty good now. And of course, the first thing I did when I got home was check the Ontario Highway Traffic Act, and of course, there's no mention of it having to be bolted to the front of the car. It just has to be shown to the front of the car. Now, it is supposed to be conspicuous. You could argue that the sun visor isn't that conspicuous, but you can't argue that it has to be bolted on the front because it clearly does not. Then I started thinking, why do we have front plates at all? There only are 4 provinces in Canada that require a front plate. Ontario is one of them. There are at least 20 jurisdictions in the States that do not require front plates. So why do we have them? I mean, maybe it's making extra work for our prisoners, but you think it would save money. It would make an awful lot of cars prettier if we didn't have to have them. You don't think it's got anything to do with that photo radar, do you? I'm Jim Kenzie.
You know, whether it's an FX, a Touareg, a Cayenne, an X5 or whatever, this segment is simply not my cup of tea. But then again, I'm not a fan of American Idol or Dancing with the Stars, so what do I know? But I can tell you this new Infiniti FX is simply the sexiest sport utility on the road today. Head-turning design, wonderful performance, especially out of that V8, and you can get it for under $70,000, and those with the money, that is still value. Now, I know gas prices are high and smaller cars are becoming more popular. That's a good thing, but it's also nice to see that some car companies have not forgotten inspired design and in the seat of your pants performance, and that describes this new FX. That's it for now. We'll see you next time out as we continue to bring you more stories about cars and the people who drive them.
I think they're bringing in something in an economic climate that's really going to work. It's relatively cheap because they went to the parts bin, stuck them all together, but it's a good presentation. It's a good presentation at a good price.
Motoring 2008 on TSN has been brought to you by the new Q horsepower from Quaker State. Unleash all your horses. And Michelin, a better way forward.